So, hello everybody. I hope this is working. I'm excited to introduce you to something that I'm working right now. I'm not sure exactly how long it's gonna take me, but I'm hoping probably like a month, maybe or so, before I launch the course. But I just wanted to introduce it to you because I think it's somebody that you know is interested in becoming a software engineer. This might be helpful. As you know, I do courses in Udemy.com, and I think at one point I kind of showed you how easy it is to do a course in Udemy and get paid for it. But the pay obviously is not much. But what I like about these courses is that you do help a lot of people that they are in different developing countries. Also, they're trying to learn different professions, and I just wanted to show you the course that I'm doing right now, which is becoming a software engineer. So things that normally nobody tells you, like all the people that want to go into IT, they kind of begin their path, they get into a degree. It takes them 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, whatever the time it takes to a degree, a huge amount of money and time. And that is a good way, obviously, to become a software engineer. Is one of the paths, but I think there's also other paths that nobody talks to you about. And I hate people spending money on a huge amount of careers for such a long time when sometimes there's not a necessity to do that. But I wanted to show you some of the things that I'll be covering on this course. I think the starting price, and for those of you that don't know Udacity, basically Udacity is a kind of free source um, tutoring. You create your courses. You do all the content, obviously, and all maintenance for the website. I can show you over here. Let me see. I'm trying to see if I can get out of here so I can show you. I don't want to move this too much, but let me see if I can get out of here. Let me. Sometimes I'm using Screenematic, which is a software product that is free. So Udacity, I'm sorry, Udemy. You normally go and you can create your curriculum. You can target your students. You can create courses over here, as you can see, and your courses. They need to be more than 2 hours for you to be able um, to get paid for them. Um, some courses, there's people that you can put the different prices, obviously. And let's say that a course is, for example, I don't know, $29 or $30. You put the price at $29 or $30, you're probably gonna get $3 or $4 per course. Per student. So it's not a money making kind of type of thing. It's just more to help the community. So you probably are familiar with some of the courses I have, some of them that I'm creating. You can see that at the month just started, so you can see there's no huge amount of money here going on. It's mostly just to help people do new skills. So I'm excited about this course just because, like I said, there's a lot of people that want to go into the field as a good paying field, but people don't know how to go without spending a lot of money. So let me go back to my beginning presentation. I want to show you. Let me adjust this over here, hopefully. This is going all over the place. Hopefully I got it here. The ratio of the Screenematic needs to be just right. It won't be good for the recording. So normally I just start courses and it's so easy. Anybody can do it. You can do it on a PowerPoint. You pretty much do a PowerPoint. I do lectures, obviously, that are taught. Lectures that are for computer science they take much longer than other lectures just because you have to show how to do things like coding and other things online. But if you're teaching something, any kind of skill, you can also do it in a PowerPoint. You can also do it with a camera, so people can see you. And normally you just put a meet your instructor. And I wanted to show you the outline for just in case somebody's interested. So I'm trying to divide the course in a way in which you are learning from the beginning. Let's say that a person that has never been a software engineer, that doesn't have, the resources to spend, 20,000 or 30,000 on a bachelor degree, or put another 20 or $30,000 on a master's degree, because that's pretty much how, how it is out there for IT, unless you go through certifications and whatnot. And you also have to pay for those. Some of those courses are, for certifications, can be up to $2,000, $2,800 for just one certification. And then you pretty much do the studying on your own. They also have boot camps and things like that. So those are the things that I'm going to be talking about here. Obviously, this is from my perspective, some of the things I learned as I was going through. But I figure, I was quite successful in changing careers in a very short amount of time, and getting to what I wanted to be in less than 2 years. And I figure maybe I had something that I can add to the community. So on lesson one, I go through the different definitions and certifications. Um, I'm gonna help people to go through job postings, to know what's out there in the job market for their area, kind of figure it out, what things do you want to do, what things, do you want to be a software engineer, do you want to be an Android developer, do you want to be a data analyst. There's so many different jobs in IT right now, and each one has a kind of, I wouldn't say definite career path, but definitely you have to know a little bit of the basics of what you're getting into, so you don't start down a path and then 2 years later, sort of like the degree, right? You're like, oh, okay, I did all this work and now I'm kind of stuck. Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Um, so, you kind of have to look up job postings to know what you need. If you want this job, what things do I need to do to get that job? I'm also going to be talking about the right opportunity. Sometimes opportunities are too good to be true, or their opportunities are just right. You kind of remind me the three bears, the story of the three bears, right? It might be a job that is too big for you, even though you really would like to do that job, but you're not of experience. Or maybe a job that, you're like, oh, I already done that before. Maybe you've had some experience. You don't want to be stuck in the job. So knowing what opportunity to choose. I'll also kind of help you with your resume, trying to make it look like recruiters look at the resume. And we'll talk about different types of recruiters. I'm not gonna spoil it for you now and give you too much information, but depending on the recruiter, that's how good or how well, or how you have to kind of take charge a little bit of your career and have some boundaries on what things you want, what things you don't want. We talk about salaries and expectations. A lot of people move to IT careers because they're well paid. And the truth is that right now they need software engineers and developers everywhere. There is a lack of people in scientific fields. There's always been. Especially women and minorities are lacking in those fields. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do this course outline. So to kind of, help some of these, females and minorities, whatever, that just to find a place in the rat race here towards IT. We're gonna talk about mentorship and competition, how important that is. Both things, depending on the company. I guess that kind of goes to, what kind of job posting, what kind of experience you have, what are your boundaries, things like that. And we'll talk about, this is very dear to my heart, degrees versus certificates. I don't know, about 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago, I studied computer science. I did an AS degree, and I really wanted to continue that, but I was discouraged from it. Because I was a minority. Um, maybe because I was coming from another country and they thought maybe I couldn't handle it. Whatever the reason, I was discouraged into continuing to that. 5 years after that, I was seeing people that had high school and the GED and getting a couple of certificates, and they were making figures. And here I was studying physics and math, and degrees are extremely hard and a lot of money, right? Go through those degrees, and I was like, what? What's going on? How come I'm making $7 an hour and they're making $60 an hour and they have so I'm going to talk about degrees and certificates, and I'm also going to talk about the degree is not always the best option. And I wish somebody would have told me that 15 years ago, before I had student debt. So we're going to talk about your background, what you have done in the past. Obviously, you have to be also realistic. um, there, if you come from, let's say, for example, if you have been a waiter or a waitress for the last 5 years, or you've been in the customer service market, or you've been on the phone in customer service, I don't know, things like that, and I have done those jobs too, okay? But things like that is going to be a little more difficult for you to make that jump, and so you need to know what things to do to prepare you to make that jump. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying you have to be responsible and kind of think, okay, what things do I need to know? And how long is this going to take me? Am I really going to put that time? Um, we'll talk about resources and preparation and how to do this jump without spending huge amount of money. What if I told you that you could be in a year, in a few months, okay? Just obviously it all depends on your effort. But let's say that you have high school, you have had a couple jobs in the customer service environment. What if I tell you that you could jump into a entry level software engineer that pays, 60 or 70,000 a year within a year? Would you do that? That would be something that you would like to do? What things do you need to do to get there? So there's and how much money is it gonna take, right? There's definitely resources. I guarantee you that you can do that for less than $400, and you will be in league with people that have spent $40,000 on a bachelor's and a master's degree, or $60,000. $400 versus $60,000. Okay, this is why I'm doing it, because I get so upset when people just spend so much money in education, just like I did, because nobody told me that. And then especially millennials, right? They go and they get all these debt, and then they're stuck with all that debt, and then they start working, and then they don't have the experience either to be able to, uh, you know, do that jump. So then you're stuck. Now, if you have a family, that gets more difficult. I think I'm gonna add there scholarships. We're gonna talk about work study and scholarships. This will be something that we put in. I'm pretty sure that a lot of universities have that. Um, on lesson 4, I'm gonna plan with you your route. There are different routes. If you want to go into software engineering, there's also different types of software. It can be a network engineer. You can go into cyber security. You could be a DevOps type of person. You can go into operations. You can go into Scrum mastering and project management. So there's different routes that you can take. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those. How much time will you have to dedicate, and how to manage your life and your time? I'll have some exercises for you. We'll walk you through. I haven't put all the homework yet in here. This is just like a beginning kind of plan that I have for the course. All right, so then lesson 5, basics needed for first year of interview. What to get you to get ready for the interview, whether you need to know to pass the interview. A lot of people think that they need to know everything there is to know, and that's why they don't apply for a job, but that's why they don't, they're afraid to make that jump. That is not necessarily true. So especially for an associate or entry level, obviously you will talk about what things you should know and how much detail and what is the level that you should know about things. Now, also another thing that you need to consider is doing a little research on your taste and your specialties. Do you like more of the back end type of programming, for example, in which those are the programs that run in the background, or you like the front end, for example, like websites, making websites, or JavaScript or things like that, or you like the whole thing. You like to kind of vary and have the full thing. You consider yourself a full stack engineer. We'll also be talking about all these definitions. On lesson 6, we'll know interviewing is extremely important. Things to know before the interview, things to do and not to do to the interviews, and things to do after the interview. I think pretty much everybody that has gone to an interview might have a basic idea of what some of those things might be. Lesson 7 is a good one. It has to do with integrity and humility versus a know-it-all attitude. That goes a long way in software engineering. You normally are interviewing with people that have done this kind of work for 2 or 3 decades. They are seniors, they have seen it all. I wouldn't say they know it all, but they definitely have seen it all. And ethics and integrity are extremely important for this job. I think they rather somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience, but kind of like describes accurately what their what her or his background and past is, what is your present, what you study, what you know, what you think you need help on. I think that's better than having a know-it-all aptitude. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about your finances in your FICO score. I didn't really know where to put this, but you're going to find out that once you become a software engineer, you might be working for the government. You might be working for Uncle Sam in different capacity, and of course, that's something that comes with security clearances sometimes, which means that you have to have your finances in order in your FICO score. Does that mean that you cannot work for a bank or you cannot work for a other company? No. But I just put it in there because I thought it might be good to know. As you can see, I'm talking a little bit about security clearance. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. Mostly we're going to be talking about finances and how a little bit of how government contracting works from the standpoint of the client, what the client needs, what the shareholders need from you as a software engineer, and your responsibilities as a software engineer. And then lesson 9, we're going to talk about etiquette and ethics and professionalism. That has to do a lot with communication, timekeeping. That's normally very important, mostly for government projects, working as part of a team. And we're going to talk about Scrum and Scrum events. And I will introduce Jira and Confluence, which are 2 software tools that we normally use to keep track of events and tasks and different things that you're going to learn. On lesson 10, I know that you're probably waiting to know salary expectations and how to negotiate your salary. Sometimes people that begin, they spend a year or 2 studying, and then when they go into finding a job, they might not accurately reflect in their resume everything they know. I don't care if it's just technical or it's just soft skills or it's something that you have learned. You have to think that every time that you learn something new in software and IT, that is a skill that somebody else does not have in the resume. Only you have that. So all of that has value. All of that has value. So most of the time I have seen a lot of people, including myself, we undermine how much we're worth. Especially if you come from a background in which maybe you weren't paying enough for what you were doing before. You tend to, underestimate yourself. and how much are you worth for the company or the organization that you work for. I will also describe some of the most basic levels of the software engineer for most jobs. This, of course, will not reflect all of them, but it will be reflect most. It will be most of what is average out there. On lesson 16, I'm going to talk about the imposter syndrome. Kind of ties a little bit before with, when you first start working on the job, especially if you're an engineer on the first year, you might feel like, oh, maybe I don't know what I think I know. Maybe if I don't know this, I think I don't know how to do my job. Or maybe, and sometimes, I remember my first year, I could not sleep for like 4 months straight. I swear. I swear to you, I could not sleep. Like something new will every day will come up, and I'll be thinking, oh my God, maybe I just kind of like got into this too much. So you have to be able to overcome fear and communicate with your team members, communicate with your leadership in order for you to be able to overcome the obstacles, because the obstacles are going to be there. It's just your way to reacting to the obstacles that's going to keep you from being an engineer. If you give up to fear, then you won't be able to be an engineer in that manner. So that is probably one of the lessons there. It's going to be, you're going to feel that. Everybody feels that. Everybody feels that at least the first year. This is a job that, thank God, you learn some of the stuff really, really quickly, so quickly that in a year or so you can have a good grasp of everything. I want to say you understand everything, but you at least have a grasp of what's going on, and you understand when when they're talking to you about different things, even if you have never seen them before. But to tell you the truth, it all comes down to your effort. So also, it comes from learning the roles of the team and where do you fit in, what is your role, what are the expectations of the job that you need to do. We're going to talk about different kind of roles in the team. Okay, so now that you got a job, now what? Or a career, I'll also say, right? Because this is not a job, it's going to be your career. So I'm going to describe like the first week on the job, the importance of teamwork and mentoring from senior engineers. I have seen this a lot. We all have different personalities. I am an INFJ, which most people don't think I am, but I'm very introvert, believe it or not. And it was difficult for me at the beginning to open up. There's a lot of people that it's difficult for them to open up, especially because some of us have been conditioned to, if we need help, maybe we're gonna appear weak, or it's going to appear that I don't know how to do my job if I ask for help. So that attitude, that kind of mentality needs to go out the window. It's not like you have to be asking questions every day, all the time, to everybody, but you do have to do your share work of legwork and kind of asking questions and the why. You need to know why this, why that. And that is very important because a lot of the mentoring from senior engineers in most companies, not all of them, there are some good companies that definitely they'll make time for you, but my experience had been, not in my job personally, but in other jobs that I have been before, it has been my experience that sometimes senior engineers don't have the time. It's not so much they don't care, it's just they don't have the time. And that makes it harder on the new engineers. So that's another reason why I'm doing this course. On lesson 18, we're gonna learn about competition with others. There's always competition, how to practice discipline, and then learning and researching all the time. Those are another part of being a software engineer. Learning and researching constantly. We learn and research websites and tools that are used for communications with teams. We learn and research how to do code. We learn and research how to make processes more agile, how to make things more efficient, how to make scripts better. There's so many things that we do. This is a job that if you like variety, there's definitely variety in this kind of environment. Lesson 19, this is just my little kind of HR drop here in the bucket. Female engineers, and some minorities, confrontations and negotiation, and possible barriers. They are there, so why to not talk about them? When I see barrier, I just don't understand why people don't want to talk about it. I don't necessarily care if it makes you a little bit uncomfortable. Um, you have to be able to talk about some things, and the reality is, or what I experienced so far in some of the positions I have on the past, is that you are a female in a field that is mostly run by males, and you know some of you know I was in the military, and I experienced that also in the military. Sometimes, what's going to happen when you are the female on a team, on a software team, and let's say that they make you project manager or product owner or something like that, and you are not directly in charge of males, but definitely they need to take some guidance from you, and they don't want to do that. How are you going to solve that? So communication and transparency, of course. So we're going to talk about that in lesson 19. In lesson 20, this is where the meat of being a software engineer begins. Now, I want to make this clear that I'm going to try to explain the tools and take the time to explain the tools and the methods really well, but we will not be, for example, learning how to do Python code. This is not if you want to learn a programming language in itself, this is not a course that you should be, taking. This is a course to show you what things you need to know, and we'll be talking about them. I will show you how to sign into an IDE. I will show you what Python is used for, all those things, but I will not be teaching you how to code in Python or JavaScript or anything like that. But you will see some examples. So on lesson 20, we start talking about tools and software, hardware, and methods used in development and operations. We're going to talk about what DevOps is and what is not, and we're going to go through Agile methodology, and this is something we're going to explain really well. On lesson 21, we continue with the benefits of DevOps. Dev stands for development, Ops stands for operations. We're going to be talking about the System Development Lifecycle, or SDLC. Sometimes there's other names for it. You might find another acronym for it. And something really important, that one of the questions in most interviews they're going to ask you, what is continuous integration? CI and CD. CI stands for continuous integration, and CD stands for continuous development. In lesson 22, I know we talk about Scrum, but we're going to talk more about Scrum. And then lesson 23, this is where you're going to get your hands dirty. We're going to have some examples and work for Git and GitHub. What is version control? What is a repository? How to work with other team members on Git. And I'm going to show you, obviously, how to do branches, how to check out from a repo, how to pull from a repo, how to have your own repo in GitHub. We'll talk a little bit about Bitbucket, which, I'm not really sure I'm going to be able to show you that, but I might try to sign on an account if I can find a free account to do that on my own, a personal account, to show you. Bitbucket is just another kind of type of repository. So we probably talk about, different types of version control that are out there. On lesson 24, this is really important. I'm gonna show you some things on Git Bash and PowerShell, the command line, how to use that. And I forgot to add here actually Linux. Excuse me, Linux. We're going to go through some of the commands for Linux, so you can learn how to do everything from Git Bash. Oh, my voice is disappearing. I'm sorry. So we're going to be able to get all the, how to get a repo with your machine locally from Git Bash, how to do all that, and some of the command line. I might be able to do some things in command line with Python to to show you also how you can use different programming languages, of course. And we're going to talk about text editors like Atom and Notepad and how to use them. How do we use them? On lesson 25, we're going to cover what is an IDE. And I'm going to show you the 3 more used: Visual Studio, IntelliJ, and Eclipse. You are going to develop an interest for one of them as you work with your code. I like different aspects of each one of them. For example, is to give you, an idea what they're used for. Pretty much these are software packages in which you can open all the folders that you have in your repo and do different things with it. So, for example, I like Visual Studio to audit files or to kind of refactor code sometimes. I like IntelliJ to refactor code is so much better if you have the Enterprise Edition. They have community editions, which are the public open source for everybody, and then they have the Enterprise Edition. I believe it's the same thing for Eclipse. I'm not really sure what edition they have right now. I use Eclipse very little, but Eclipse is I think Eclipse is much more difficult, at least from my point of view, for people that just starting out. But definitely IntelliJ I will say is, and as you will see, the word IntelliJ is very intelligent. It helps you a lot when you're doing refactoring of code. So you will develop your own liking for each one of them. On lesson 26, we're going to cover what is Maven. I haven't added AND in here because it's not as common. I should add a Gradle probably in there, so I probably will change that. And what is XML and what is the POM file? We're going to cover all those basics. And then we're going to talk into lesson 27 about different programming languages like Java, C++, Python, JavaScript, Ruby, and Rails. What are they used for, and which is the language that most people in your area are using. That is extremely important to find a job. I can't even begin to tell you. It is good that you know at least one programming language and you're pretty decent at one programming language. You don't have to be an expert in all of them. Normally Java, C++, and Python are the most common ones for backend, and then JavaScript is the most common one for front end. And then we'll talk about SQL, databases like SQL. There's also Postgres that I haven't put in here, but SQL is the most common out there. It is, I live in Tampa, so in Tampa and Florida in general, there's a lot of banking. There's a lot of databases that are for healthcare, and normally those databases use SQL. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. On lesson 29, we get into container world, and we're going to talk about virtual machines, VirtualBox, and virtual VMware. And you will be doing an exercise on that. I'm going to show you how to do it, how to download everything, how to make an account with Docker Hub. How to do commands on Docker. We're going to be doing some commands on Docker, so you learn that. And in lesson 30, we're also going to be doing the same thing in Kubernetes, just starting a couple servers in which you can start the server and go some commands so you learn how Kubernetes works. And then we'll mention what is a pipeline and what is Jenkins, because you're going to hear that. A lot of the first-year engineers don't normally have that background of knowing about Jenkins or pipelines or OpenShift or things like that. So that's not something that I will say it is basics to become a software engineer, like I would say the first months, but definitely within the first 3 or 4 months of you working somewhere, you're going to need to know a little bit about it and possibly taking some courses to know how and what is Jenkins. On 31, we're going to learn about how to fix bugs and resiliency, which is one of the aspects of the job, and what is Postman, what is it useful, and I'm going to download it and show you what is Postman and what exactly does it do. for as far as fixing bugs, resiliency, and we'll talk about things like proxy and networks and other things, how to connect your computer with a network and things like that. So in lesson 32, we already talked about research and developer resource size, but I'm going to give you some more examples, especially for languages like C++ and Python. And then lesson 33, let's say that you've been working for a year as an engineer, and now you gain a lot of skills because, like I said, you're gonna learn a lot of things in a year, and you're trying to re-examine your why. What did you learn, and improve your resume, of course, for future opportunities, make more contacts, networking. So we're gonna talk about how that looks like after a year. And on lesson 34, I'm gonna kind of put some of the things that you could do if you wanted to make the jump after a year and a half of working for somebody. I'm not saying you have to do that. You might be in a company that mentors you, has good salary, you love it, you love your job. You don't have to do that. But sooner or later, either that being 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, you probably want to, if you want to make the jump, we're going to talk about how to some of the expectations, the salary and responsibility, and how to evaluate your plans in the future. And then lesson 35, how to plan your life and career, obstacles and challenges that you might start getting as you become better at your profession, and how to give back and mentor others. And of course, we're going to be talking about how to thrive in the profession. So that's what the course is going to teach you. So if you're interested, I am working on it right now. It should be in udemy.com within the next month. I'm hoping by October 15th it will be out. And I hope that you enjoy this, and that kind of gives you a little bit to think about. If you have any questions, you feel free to contact me through Messenger and Facebook. And thank you for listening to me and my gibberish.